Welcome back to RTOD, and this is a new segment that I'm going to call As I Remember. And for the first As I Remember, I want to talk about Homestar Runner because, well, let's back this up a little bit. I was going through YouTube the other day, and there was a massive playlist of every single Strong Bad email, and it's hours of them, right? And I started watching them, and it was amazing how vivid memories came back from watching these from the early 2000s with my friends. And really, it all happened around a Gateway 2000 in 7th or 8th grade after school with Luke while we're waiting for the bus, right? So we had one of the last buses, so we had a lot of time. So we'd go on that computer, and it was it wasn't the tower, it was the desktop style Gateway 2000. It's very classic, late 90s, early 2000s computer that you would find in a school. And, we were either playing Roller Coaster Tycoon on it, or watching Homestar Runner, right? And the internet in the early 2000s, right? Really 2000, 2001, when Homestar was kind of kicking off, was vastly different than the internet we have today. And unless you experienced it, you can't understand. You can't wrap your head around it because there was no Facebook. YouTube was still 5 years down the road. Did I have MySpace at the time? I don't think I had MySpace at the time. The internet really wasn't a one-stop shop. A lot of people still had dial-up, and you had to connect to the internet. So you got away from life you had to go to the internet. It was going to the internet. And, for entertainment, there wasn't one-stop amazing shops that we have today. You had to go around. So if you weren't on Homestar Runner, maybe you were on like E-Bombs World, let's see, like the Badger, Weeble and Bob, Mr. Snaffenberger, stuff like that, right? You had to go to these really niche flash websites to find these things. Or you were playing games. You were playing games on your computer at home, like I said, Roller Coaster Tycoon, or maybe like Wyvern, Wormhole, some very early free browser-based multiplayer games. At least that's what my friends were doing. And there were big titles that we would play together as well. But Homestar Runner was different, and it was its own dedicated website, homestarrunner.com, that you would go to, and there were actual cartoons, not full 30-minute cartoons, but 4, 5, 6-minute cartoons that had good structure, good story, good animation. It was all done in Flash that didn't compare with anything else on the internet at the time. And the highlight and really what kicked off this series and me thinking about it were the Strong Bad emails. And you could still watch all of this today, but the emails, that was something we looked forward to. Like, we vividly looked forward to the weekly Strong Bad emails. And it was a kind of a subculture at the time because pop culture in the late 90s, early 2000s really revolved around what was on cable television, what shows were playing on Fox, CBS, or ABC, right? Those are the things you talked about. We don't really have water cooler moments anymore, right? But, I remember my friends and I, we would talk about the Seinfeld episode we watched last night, or the Simpsons episode we watched last night, or when, what was it, Ally McBeal had that dancing baby, like that went viral before viral was a thing, right? Everybody was talking about that dancing baby, right? And there is somebody watching this having no idea what I'm talking about, right? But Homestar Runner was kind of that subgenre that people liked. But the interesting thing about it, because you didn't have Facebook, there was MySpace, but it wasn't really as big as what MySpace was. A lot of this happened by word of mouth because, if I find something funny today, I have a chat with, a bunch of my close friends with it, and we'll put memes in there and we'll put silly videos in there, and it's just ridiculous, right? We didn't have that. So you had to find a video you liked and share it with somebody, either in person, verbally explaining it, or writing down or printing out the URL, or sending it to them on AIM, on AOL Instant Messenger. It was a different landscape. It was a different dynamic. And Homestar Runner was just, it was a really good time. Like it was edgy, but it was clean, right? You know, they knew where the line was and they went up to it. They didn't cross the line though. There were some other Flash cartoons that were just ridiculous and wrong, and they crossed the line. Homestar Runner never did that. It was clean, it was classy, it was something that you could sit down and watch. And if, you know, your parents walked in while you're watching it, you know, your dad probably like shake his head and turn around, but it wasn't something that anybody would get upset with, right? But what amazed me watching some of these Homestar, the Strong Bad emails, and some of these I haven't watched in, well, now 14 years. Well, no, 2024 came out in a long time ago. It came out in 2000, right? So 24 years. Wow. Yeah, so some of these I haven't watched in, you know, 23, 24 years, right? And I vividly remember them. I vividly remember, you know, Strong Bad's first computer is clearly an Apple II clone-ish, right? And then he went to like the Compy 486, and those were kind of the ones I remember the most, right? But it's amazing as I'm watching these emails, and certain ones will resonate more with me. You know, I just remember sitting at that Gateway 2000 with Luke and Joe and Kent and Allie, watching these videos and laughing our asses off at how ridiculous it is. And it's still funny. I still laugh at it today. But it's astounding how memory works and how nostalgia works, because, you know, I watch these videos and it's like I'm with some of my friends again back in, you know, in grade school, early high school, watching these videos, or, you know, maybe after school logging into AIM and then playing some browser multiplayer game with them online, right? It's amazing. And it's something that can't be replicated today, because the internet landscape has changed so much. But most importantly, the way just the Strong Bad, the emails and Homestar Runner, the way it's delivered, it has changed fundamentally because of Flash, right? So now you can go to homestarrunner.com. You can see the emails. You have options to watch them in the website, or you can just go to their YouTube and watch it there. And you get 95% of the experience, right? You're there consuming that content, and that's really the bulk of it. But what was amazing, and you can only do this in Flash, you can't do this in a YouTube video, in Strong Bad emails or certain parts of a Homestar Runner video, there were little Easter eggs where you would hover over a word or click on a word or click on something while the animation was still going, right? Because Flash animation, just because you clicked on it, it didn't stop, right? It didn't pause like YouTube. So you'd click on it and little Easter eggs would pop up, little messages, or it would take you to a song or some other part of it. That interactivity, you probably could capture it, but you can't capture it with playing it through YouTube or playing it with how they have it on the website. So for people who are watching the Strong Bad emails today, right, there's always a lag. Well, not always, but for the videos that had an Easter egg, at the end of it, after the paper would scroll down at the top of the page, there would be 15, 20, 30 seconds of continuous play at the end of it, and then an Easter egg would come up. But those Easter eggs you had to find. And I remember Luke and I, after the end of the videos, right? So Flash would, well, it wouldn't be done, but it would get to the end of the playing part, and you'd sit there, the paper would scroll down, and then we would just get the mouse and we would click every single word that was on the screen, or just click around on the screen, trying to find the Easter eggs, because not every video, not every email had it. So you had to search for it. And now it's just kind of handed on to you because of the constraints in the way that YouTube works. But this was cutting edge in 2000, 2001, 2002. Nobody else was doing it. So much so that in the early 2000s, this was so popular that the creators, they quit their day job to do this full time, which was unheard of at that time. You know, people weren't full-time digital creators in 2000, but they were, thanks to Homestar Runner. And well, everybody went there for the strong bad emails, right? Those were my favorite parts, but just in general, the ecosystem there, right? They did that full time. And, you know, it's really a testament to their creativity, because you had characters, you had good characters. You had Homestar, you had strong bad, strong mad, strong sad, the cheat, Marzipan, the mayor of town, the poop smith, Coach Z, Bubs, just everybody, right? There was a huge cast of characters. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little. There was always enough that it felt fresh and entertaining. And that's just something that we miss out today, I think, because the entertainment landscape online, especially geared toward younger people, which is painful to say, is crap. You know, there's just a lot out there, right? You know, I got 3 kids, you know, 2 are on the older side enough that they have their own shows and their own creators that they follow now, because that's the thing, right? And it's it's either cookie cutter, everybody's doing the same thing, or it's just ridiculous nonsense. Whereas, you know, Homestar probably could have been on primetime TV, right? Maybe, sure, or at least Saturday morning cartoons, right? It was that polished. The story was there. The character development was there, right? It was good, and of course, you know, it means a lot to me because that was a big part of my life when I was younger. I enjoyed this. We looked forward to it. You know, it was one of those things, you knew once a week you were going to get a new strong bad email, and there was some regularity in there. And, you know, I would venture to say from 2000 to 2004, 5-ish, I regularly went there. And then life happened, their release schedule kind of slowed down, it stalled out for a little bit, but every once in a while I'd still go back and visit it because it was just always a staple there, unlike some of the other cartoons I watched where, like, you know, Weeble and Bob, for example, probably not a lot of people know about that. I don't know, maybe they do. I'm not sure where I would find that. I don't remember the website for that. It was like Matazone, maybe, I don't know. But what they lacked and what Homestar Runner got was branding and identity. It was easy to find, right? Whereas the early Flash cartoons, they were all hosted on some other site. It was all jumbled up. They lacked the brand. I mean, in 2001, you can go to the Homestar Runner website and buy shirts and merchandise. I mean, they were ahead of their time as far as marketing and branding was concerned. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing time. The late 90s, early 2000s were just an amazing time to be online and be connected, because it was everything was new, everything was exciting. It was a joy to go online and explore, and that's really the right word, is to explore, because there was just so many nooks and crannies of the internet that you can go to, and you don't get that today because we have hubs and of how good Google is and just search engines in general now. Sharing information and finding new things, you know, is it's easy. It's too, man, the weirdest things go viral today and everybody knows about it. But, you know, Homestar, unless unless you knew people that watched it, or you made a reference, or you heard somebody make a reference, you didn't know other people watched Homestar Runner, because you weren't sharing it, and you weren't posting and resharing as much today. So it almost felt a little edgy, right? A little mature, grown up, watching it, because it was just something you watched with your close friends, or you watched alone, and maybe you would make a reference out in public. And I know sometimes if I would have made a Homestar Runner reference to people that I didn't know watched Homestar, I would probably be a little apprehensive, because one, they might not get the reference at all, just go over their head, and then I would have just said something stupid. Or maybe they didn't like Homestar Runner, and they would, make fun or ridicule me. I don't know. It's amazing how your mind works when you're younger like that, right? But yeah, it was a different time. It was an absolutely different time, and it was a time where you found niche things and you enjoyed it, and that's how we got our internet. And it was good, and I absolutely love Homestar Runner, and it was a big part of my younger years, of, well, now 23, 24 years ago. It was great. It was great. Did you watch Homestar Runner? Was this new? Let me know in the comments below if you watched it back in the early 2000s, or if you're watching it now, or if you never heard of it and you're going to check it out after this video. I highly encourage you to, because like I said, right now I'm re-watching all of the Strong Bad emails, and I think right now I'm around 100, something like that. And it's amazing having some of the flashbacks. It's like watching, I equate it to watching Simpsons from the 90s, or Seinfeld again, because those are two shows I really loved growing up, right? So, being able to watch those episodes again, and then have all the memories rush back of life around it, where you were maybe at that Gateway 2000 at school, or in my parents' living room with the floor model Zenith TV, right? It's amazing how those memories spark other memories, right? So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you like Homestar Runner. If you never heard of it, let me know as well. But also let me know what you think of this as I remember. I would like this to be a reoccurring thing, where I kind of pick a topic and ramble about it as I remember. It's not going to be scripted, very little, if any, research, because it's what I remember, right? And I really thought that Homestar would have been a fitting kickoff to a hopeful reoccurring series here on Retro Tech or Die. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like what we're doing here, like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll catch you next time.